Many individuals remain in challenging relationships because their emotional bonds create a sense of familiarity, which feels safer than navigating the uncertainty of life without the other person. Fear of loneliness often drives people to stay, as being single can seem intimidating compared to the perceived comfort of a known, even unhealthy, partner dynamic. Some people stay due to low self-esteem, believing they do not deserve a healthier relationship or fearing they cannot find someone else who will accept them. Attachment styles developed in early childhood influence relationship choices, making certain individuals more likely to tolerate controlling or emotionally unavailable partners without questioning the dynamic. Emotional manipulation can subtly reinforce staying behavior, as partners may use guilt, affection, or promises of change to maintain control and foster dependence. Financial dependency also contributes, as some individuals remain in relationships due to shared expenses, stability, or fear of losing access to resources needed for daily life. People may rationalize toxic behavior, interpreting occasional kindness or affection as proof of potential improvement, which reinforces the hope that things will get better. Social pressure and expectations, including family, friends, or cultural norms, can encourage individuals to maintain relationships despite clear signs of harm or incompatibility. Cognitive dissonance occurs when people convince themselves that unhealthy behavior is normal, acceptable, or temporary, creating mental justification for staying longer than is beneficial. Past experiences of trauma or neglect can influence individuals to tolerate negative behavior, as it aligns with patterns they learned early in life. Fear of conflict often prevents open communication, making individuals accept harmful behaviors to avoid tension or perceived confrontation in the relationship. Hope for change plays a central role, as partners may believe that love, effort, or time can transform unhealthy dynamics into positive connections. Emotional investment makes leaving difficult because years of shared experiences, memories, and routines create psychological inertia that resists abrupt change. Some people stay to maintain family harmony, particularly when children are involved, prioritizing stability over personal well-being in order to protect loved ones. Perceived scarcity of partners or dating opportunities can make individuals tolerate toxicity, fearing that leaving may result in permanent loneliness or missed chances. Patterns of intermittent reinforcement, where positive behavior occasionally appears, strengthen attachment and prolong the relationship despite frequent negativity or inconsistency. Self-identity often becomes intertwined with the partner or relationship, making individuals feel incomplete or unsure of themselves outside of that context. Emotional fatigue reduces the capacity for critical evaluation, making it harder to recognize harmful patterns or assert boundaries over time. Some individuals confuse attachment with love, mistaking dependency, obligation, or routine for genuine affection and fulfillment. Guilt can be a powerful factor, as leaving may trigger feelings of shame, obligation, or responsibility for the partner's emotions or circumstances. Manipulative partners often employ subtle emotional tactics, including gaslighting, to create doubt about one's perception of reality, reinforcing continued attachment. The fear of judgment from others can prevent individuals from ending relationships, as societal opinions may add pressure to stay. Comfort zones play a role, as the predictability of the current situation, even if negative, can feel less overwhelming than uncertain alternatives. Hope for reconciliation or improvement can overshadow rational decision-making, as emotional investment clouds perception and promotes repeated cycles of tolerance. Certain personality traits, such as high empathy, compassion, or people-pleasing tendencies, make individuals more likely to absorb negativity rather than assert personal needs. Past relationship experiences can normalize toxicity, creating subconscious expectations that discomfort, criticism, or inconsistency are inevitable in partnerships. Some individuals prioritize loyalty, commitment, or perceived duty over self-care, choosing to stay in relationships despite repeated harm. Anxiety about the unknown future can make separation feel riskier than maintaining a familiar, though dysfunctional, dynamic. Limited coping strategies may prevent individuals from effectively addressing conflict, leaving tolerance as the easiest path. Cultural, religious, or traditional beliefs can reinforce staying behavior, framing relationship dissolution as failure or morally undesirable. Some individuals overestimate their influence, believing they can fix or change a partner's behavior through patience. Understand. Many remain in toxic relationships because leaving requires confronting uncomfortable truths about themselves, their choices, and the reality they've ignored, which can feel emotionally overwhelming and almost impossible to face. Emotional blackmail is common. Partners may threaten withdrawal of affection, abandonment, or consequences that amplify fear and guilt, keeping someone trapped while appearing superficially caring or concerned. Intermittent reconciliation creates a dangerous pattern where forgiveness after abuse reinforces hope, blurring boundaries, and convincing victims that the relationship can improve if they try harder. Some individuals mistake intensity for love. Constant highs and lows create a roller coaster of emotion that feels passionate, exciting, or meaningful, even if it is deeply damaging. Childhood attachment patterns often resurface in adult relationships, making individuals drawn to dynamics resembling parental neglect, criticism, or control without consciously realizing the repetition of unhealthy cycles. Many people stay due to societal expectations of marriage, commitment, or long-term partnership, believing that leaving is morally wrong or a sign of personal failure in relationships. Love addiction can explain why some remain. Individuals become neurologically conditioned to the partner's unpredictable affection, craving validation and approval despite recurring emotional harm. People often minimize abuse internally, convincing themselves that certain behaviors aren't serious enough to warrant leaving, thereby normalizing mistreatment as part of everyday relational dynamics. Toxic partners may subtly isolate victims from hobbies, passions, or social connections, making independence feel impossible and reinforcing the belief that leaving would mean losing all support. Some stay because the partner controls access to important information, resources, or decision-making, making autonomy difficult and dependence a reluctant but seemingly necessary choice. Fear of confrontation fuels inaction. Many worry that addressing toxicity will escalate conflict, provoke retaliation, or even cause emotional breakdowns they feel unprepared to handle. Cognitive distortions like catastrophizing convince individuals that leaving would ruin their life, relationships, or social standing, creating a mental barrier that traps them psychologically. People sometimes normalize toxic behavior by comparing it to extreme examples of abuse in media, thinking, at least it's not that bad, while ignoring their own suffering. The hope that a partner will suddenly see the light or change personality keeps people invested, clinging to glimpses of kindness or progress that rarely last. Emotional fatigue can cause passive endurance. Repeated disappointment, criticism, or neglect reduces energy for resistance, making tolerance a coping mechanism rather than an informed choice. Some remain due to cultural or familial pressures that define success by maintaining a relationship, discouraging separation even when the connection is emotionally harmful. A fear of being alone can override rational thinking, convincing individuals that enduring toxicity is preferable to facing loneliness or rebuilding life without a partner. Gaslighting intensifies dependency. Partners manipulate perception of reality, leaving the other uncertain about memory, judgment, or interpretation of events, which deepens reliance and inhibits leaving. Past trauma bonding teaches the brain to associate affection with pain. Repeated cycles of abuse, followed by reconciliation, create neurochemical patterns akin to addiction. Some people stay to maintain financial stability. housing, or resources controlled by the partner, fearing that leaving would compromise basic security or create untenable hardship. Low self-esteem fosters belief in undeservedness. Victims may internalize criticism, viewing toxicity as deserved punishment rather than recognizing it as harmful behavior by another individual. People often remain due to fear of losing children, shared pets, or family connections, believing leaving would create disruption that outweighs personal well-being. Emotional manipulation creates guilt loops, making someone feel responsible for their partner's happiness or well-being, and convincing them that enduring toxicity is a moral obligation. Some stay to avoid social scrutiny. Concern about friends, relatives, or community judgment can make leaving feel shameful or scandalous, reinforcing continuation of harmful dynamics. Intermittent, positive reinforcement keeps hope alive. Rare moments of kindness, affection, or apology can anchor attachment and prolong endurance of negative behavior. The human brain craves attachment, and even harmful bonds create a sense of security, preventing rational decision-making despite evidence of ongoing emotional harm. Self-blame is common. Victims often interpret mistreatment as a reflection. Some individuals stay in toxic relationships because leaving challenges their identity, forcing them to confront who they are outside the relationship and the life they've constructed with their partner. Emotional manipulation often creates a distorted sense of reality, convincing victims that the problem lies within themselves rather than the partner's controlling or harmful behavior. People sometimes remain due to fear of judgment from friends or family, worrying they will be seen as weak, failure-prone, or unable to maintain relationships successfully. Hope for transformation keeps individuals tethered. They cling to occasional positive behavior, believing the partner's flaws can be overcome through patience or effort. Financial entanglement, shared property, or joint responsibilities makes leaving seem logistically impossible, creating a practical barrier that compounds emotional reluctance to break away. Many remain because toxic relationships subtly erode boundaries over time, normalizing behaviors that were once unacceptable and making mistreatment feel ordinary or deserved. Emotional dependency strengthens as partners repeatedly alternate between criticism and praise, creating an addictive cycle where affection is earned through endurance rather than freely given. Childhood trauma or exposure to dysfunctional family dynamics often teaches individuals that conflict, neglect, or manipulation are inherent parts of relationships, influencing adult attachment patterns. Some stay out of fear of isolation. Without friends or support networks, leaving a toxic partner can feel like entering a void with no safety net. Hopeful thinking, like imagining reconciliation or improvement, sustains attachment, keeping people engaged in harmful cycles even when evidence clearly shows toxicity is ongoing. Self-doubt convinces individuals that they are incapable of navigating life alone, fostering dependence on a partner whose behavior undermines their confidence and autonomy. Cognitive dissonance leads victims to rationalize abusive behavior as acceptable, tolerable, or temporary, masking the real harm while maintaining the illusion of a functional relationship. Love addiction explains why some people remain. Intense emotional highs and intermittent affection trigger brain chemistry similar to addictive substances, creating cravings for connection despite recurring pain. Some stay because they fear emotional confrontation, believing addressing issues will provoke anger, aggression, or rejection that feels unbearable to face without support. The need for attachment is a fundamental human drive. Even toxic bonds create a sense of safety, familiarity, and belonging, making detachment psychologically challenging. Intermittent reinforcement traps individuals, providing occasional affection or praise that reinforces loyalty and prolongs endurance of ongoing mistreatment. Individuals often stay due to social pressure. Norms surrounding marriage, relationships, or public appearances can make leaving feel shameful, selfish, or morally wrong. Some remain because they confuse intensity with love, mistaking constant conflict or emotional turbulence for passion and meaningful connection rather than recognizing manipulation or abuse. Low self-esteem reinforces dependency, convincing victims that they do not deserve healthier, supportive relationships and that tolerance of mistreatment is the only viable option. Habitual routines, shared responsibilities, and intertwined lives create inertia. Leaving would disrupt not only daily patterns, but also personal identity tied to the relationship. Emotional blackmail makes departure psychologically difficult. Threats, guilt trips, or expressions of despair manipulate feelings, creating a moral dilemma that discourages separation. Many people stay because they lack awareness of the subtle forms of emotional abuse, dismissing controlling or manipulative behaviors as quirks, differences, or signs of love. The fear of starting over is paralyzing. Imagining life without the partner, rebuilding independence, and facing uncertainty feels more intimidating than enduring emotional harm. Denial allows people to maintain the illusion of normalcy, avoiding acknowledgement of pain, betrayal, or emotional manipulation, which would necessitate confronting reality and making difficult choices. Some individuals remain because leaving triggers survivor guilt, believing that departing would harm the partner emotionally or morally, even when their own well-being is at risk. Cognitive distortions like personalization or overgeneralization convince victims that they are responsible for the partner's happiness, reinforcing the perception that staying is the right action. Social isolation imposed by the partner strengthens dependency. Victims feel trapped, unsupported, and incapable of leaving due to lack of external guidance or encouragement. Some stay due to fear of escalation. Many individuals stay because toxic partners exploit love as a weapon, twisting care into control, making affection conditional, and creating emotional dependency that feels impossible to break. Fear of emotional backlash often immobilizes victims as they anticipate anger, blame, or withdrawal, which deters confrontation and prolongs endurance of harmful behavior. Some remain due to hope for reconciliation, imagining the partner will change after reflection, therapy, or life events, even when historical patterns suggest otherwise. Intermittent positive reinforcement tricks the brain into attachment. Occasional praise or affection strengthens emotional bonds, making departure feel like loss, despite ongoing toxicity. Past trauma creates vulnerability. Childhood neglect, inconsistent caregiving, or exposure to unhealthy relationships can predispose individuals to tolerate manipulation or emotional abuse in adulthood. People sometimes normalize criticism and belittling, misinterpreting controlling or harsh behavior as constructive guidance, rather than identifying it as emotional harm. Shared responsibilities create psychological inertia. Children, finances, or joint commitments make leaving feel complicated, overwhelming, and morally challenging, even when the relationship is emotionally damaging. Emotional manipulation can distort perception, convincing individuals that leaving is selfish or harmful, when in reality it is an essential act of self-preservation. Some stay because they mistake intensity for passion, equating emotional turbulence with connection and mistaking toxicity for love, excitement, or meaningful attachment. Low self-esteem reinforces tolerance. Individuals may believe they cannot find better or deserve mistreatment, keeping them emotionally tethered to harmful dynamics. Fear of social judgment or gossip can prevent leaving. Concern about reputation, community perception, or familial disapproval often outweighs personal well-being. Hope and nostalgia anchor attachment, recalling better times, shared milestones, or personal investment clouds judgment and encourages endurance despite present harm. Some remain because partners isolate them from friends and family, making the outside world seem inaccessible and departure feel dangerous or impossible. Cognitive dissonance reinforces staying. Victims rationalize abuse as temporary, fixable, or minor, creating an internal justification for continued investment in a harmful relationship. Emotional fatigue can create passivity. Repeated criticism, neglect, or manipulation drains energy for assertive action, leaving endurance as a coping mechanism rather than a choice. Some stay because leaving would disrupt intertwined lives, including shared homes, pets, or routines, which creates a sense of instability that feels too risky to face. Intermittent affection or apology maintains hope. Sporadic positive behavior convinces victims that change is possible, reinforcing attachment even when cycles of harm persist. Fear of solitude can overpower rational assessment. The anxiety of being alone often outweighs awareness of harm, making remaining in the relationship seem safer. Emotional manipulation often blames the victim, shifting responsibility and making departure feel morally wrong or selfish, creating invisible barriers to action. Some individuals remain because they have internalized societal ideals that define commitment or success as enduring hardship, pressuring them to persist in harmful situations. Cognitive distortions like personalization convince victims they are responsible for the partner's happiness or behavior, keeping them invested despite emotional harm. Hope for professional help can prolong relationships. Believing therapy, counseling, or external intervention will resolve patterns of toxicity may prevent separation even when patterns are entrenched. Attachment anxiety heightens dependency. Fear of abandonment triggers clinging behavior, making leaving emotionally unbearable despite rational understanding of harm. Some remain because they equate love with endurance. Suffering or sacrifice is misinterpreted as proof of commitment or moral strength, reinforcing tolerance of abuse. Denial provides temporary relief. Ignoring harmful behavior allows victims to maintain a sense of control and normalcy while avoiding painful truths about the relationship. Habit and familiarity create comfort in toxicity. Long-term routines and intertwined lives make leaving psychologically and emotionally daunting. Some individuals remain because separation triggers guilt. Imagining the partner's emotional distress reinforces the sense of responsibility, keeping them trapped. Intermittent kindness reinforces emotional addiction. Brief periods of attention or validation anchor attachment and prolong the cycle of enduring abuse. Understanding why people stay in toxic relationships provides opportunities for self-awareness, allowing individuals to identify patterns, recognize emotional influences, and make informed decisions about their personal well-being. Education about attachment styles, emotional dependence, and psychological patterns equips individuals with knowledge to navigate relationships safely and intentionally. Self-reflection helps recognize unhealthy dynamics and promotes clarity about personal needs, boundaries, and values in a relationship context. Developing emotional intelligence strengthens the ability to interpret partner behavior accurately, reducing reliance on rationalizations or false hope. Cultivating self-esteem empowers individuals to prioritize personal well-being, making it easier to evaluate whether a relationship is fulfilling or harmful. Building social support networks, including friends, family, or mentors, provides guidance and validation, creating safe frameworks for decision-making. Setting clear personal boundaries establishes limits for acceptable behavior, reducing tolerance for repeated negativity while reinforcing self-respect. Mindfulness practices enhance emotional regulation, allowing individuals to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively to challenges or conflict. Counseling or therapy provides professional guidance to understand psychological patterns, address emotional dependence, and develop strategies for healthier relationship choices. Reflecting on past experiences encourages recognition of recurring patterns and increases awareness of decisions that influence relational outcomes. Understanding cognitive biases, such as optimism or confirmation bias, helps individuals evaluate behavior objectively and avoid staying based on unrealistic expectations. Learning about emotional manipulation techniques enables recognition and mitigation, empowering individuals to maintain autonomy and mental health. Practicing assertive communication strengthens confidence in expressing needs and addressing concerns safely within a relationship. Evaluating compatibility based on shared values, mutual respect, and emotional reciprocity promotes informed decision-making and healthier relational choices. Identifying red flags, such as repeated disrespect or lack of support, increases awareness and reduces tolerance for harmful patterns. Developing resilience fosters the ability to navigate emotional challenges safely, encouraging growth and personal empowerment. Understanding that ending a relationship can be a positive step supports decision-making rooted in well-being rather than fear or guilt. Recognizing societal or cultural pressures clarifies external influences on decisions, enabling individuals to make choices aligned with personal priorities. Practicing gratitude and self-compassion strengthens emotional resilience, supporting safe evaluation of relational experiences without self-blame. Awareness of financial or logistical dependencies encourages proactive planning, reducing barriers to making safe, informed choices. Building new routines, hobbies, and social connections increases independence, reducing reliance on a toxic relational dynamic. Reflecting on personal growth and future goals reinforces the importance of relationships that support emotional and mental well-being. Learning from past experiences promotes healthier decision-making in current and future relationships, fostering long-term stability and satisfaction. Understanding the interplay between attachment, fear, hope, and guilt empowers individuals to recognize influences that prolong unhealthy dynamics. Practicing decision-making in small steps builds confidence for addressing complex relational challenges safely and effectively. Developing self-awareness about emotional triggers allows individuals to respond to relational stressors without compromising boundaries or well-being. Recognizing the difference between love and attachment prevents conflation of dependency with genuine connection and respect. Observing relational patterns objectively helps determine whether behavior aligns with personal values and emotional health. Cultivating patience and reflection supports thoughtful decision-making, reducing impulsive choices driven by fear, guilt, or habit. Identifying supportive resources, such as educational content or peer groups, fosters safe avenues for guidance and insight. Self-care routines, including physical, emotional, and mental well-being practices, reinforce resilience and confidence in relational evaluation. Establishing goals for personal growth encourages alignment of relationship choices with long-term fulfillment rather than short-term comfort. Recognizing the influence of intermittent rewards, positive reinforcement, or apologies allows individuals to maintain perspective and avoid prolonged tolerance. Setting realistic expectations about partner behavior encourages